On today's show, we'll break down two big wins for the Ottawa Senators and how it's impacted their spot in the Eastern Conference.
And we'll talk about how Tim Stützle is continuing his evolution into a superstar.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller. Today is Thursday, January 15th, and a happy 24th birthday for Tim Stützle.
Yes, happy birthday, Timmy. And crazy to think, Ross, that Tim Stützle debuted in the NHL on his 19th birthday to the date. And that wasn't just a random day where he got called up or something. That was the first game of the NHL season that year.
What a couple weeks it was for Tim Stützle there. Gets dummied by Canada at the World Juniors, then signs his NHL contract, finishes that tournament, the best forward in the tournament, then signs his NHL contract, then makes his NHL debut, comes in hot and gets a goal in his second NHL game. But because he debuted on his birthday, kind of cool. We went back and looked each year, January 15th to January 15th, and how his evolution has gone both offensively and defensively. So we'll get into that conversation later on in the show. We'll also pull up the standings later on in the show. But before we do that, we got to dive deeper into last night's win. 8-4, the Senators beat the New York Rangers. That's on the heels of a 2-1 victory over Vancouver on Tuesday. The team needed confidence, and it feels like that first period specifically was a great way to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime you start off a game 4-0 and scoring that fourth goal in the dying seconds of the period to head off the ice happy, you're probably going to have yourself a good game. And that's back-to-back wins for the Ottawa Senators on back-to-back nights, including one night where they go from Ottawa to New York. Obviously not a huge travel, but still some travel in there. And I don't want to hear it from Sens fans or people that cover other teams in the NHL saying, all right, Sens fans, calm down. You beat the worst team in the league. Then you beat the worst team in the Eastern Conference. I don't care. You got to play the teams that are ahead of you. I will not apologize for wins. I'm not going to be one of those fans that is like, still not that inspired. They should have beat Vancouver by more. Oh, why did they allow the New York Rangers to score 4 goals later on in the game? Who cares? They got 4 points in regulation, one of them up against an Eastern Conference team. That's the kind of momentum we need going into this weekend. So if you're going to be a party pooper and not be happy about getting those 2 wins, I don't want to hear it.
Well, one good thing, too, about that win and the way they did it was, as a fan, you're not going to complain about it. Maybe you will, but we won't here on this show. But Brady Tkachuk, after the game, did mention, there's lessons to be learned from that. And I really appreciated that they weren't satisfied, even though they won by 4 goals. That's absolutely sick against the Rangers. Hey, nice little throwback to Pajot's 4-goal game. But, hey, they know that it's going to be a long battle, long hill to climb. They've put themselves in a bad situation being towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference standing. So I'm glad that it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies after the win last night. They said, hey, look, we had a great first period, but we still got to learn how to play the second half of the game, whether we're up, down, side to side, and we need to help out Levy. That was the words from Brady Tkachuk, is that they felt like they let their goaltender down in the third period.
No, and that's fair. And if you want to phrase it as not satisfied with the wins, I will accept that, Ross. But any negativity or any downplaying how important it was to get 4 points in those 2 games, that's where I draw the line. And we got to give our heads a shake here, because this is the Ottawa Senators coming off a brutal 4-game losing streak. And they were tied for dead last in the Eastern Conference. Now we're going to take a look at the standings a little later on, but you need points, and it doesn't matter how you get them.
And those are the teams that were in front of you. You either win or you lose, despite what Sens marketing in 2019 try to tell you. You can learn as well, but you do either win or you lose. So those are the teams that were ahead of them. And if they didn't beat them, they'd be on a 6-game losing streak, and we'd be having very tough conversations today. But they pull it out. And I don't even want to say pull it out, because they dominated both games. I honestly thought for a 60 minutes, because they kind of lagged once they went up 6-0 against the Rangers. But I think as a 60-minute effort, I felt like they played just as well, if not better, against Vancouver. You got to tip your cap to Kevin Lankinen, and he's the reason why that wasn't a blowout win either.
Yeah, I would say it's fair to say they did play better at the Vancouver game. I mean, they get 40 shots, and yes, Lankinen played incredible. But Levi Merlainen also was really good in that game too. So a much better goaltending game in the first one, Ross, as the Sens chased away Jonathan Quick and then even got a couple on Spencer Martin too.
Yeah, kind of interesting. There was no average goaltending, right? Like Lankinen was really good against them and Quick was really bad. So maybe in the middle is somewhere the Sens could find themselves going up against this weekend. Although, especially on Sunday, Detroit, John Gibson was very good against Ottawa last Monday when Detroit got a 5-3 win. And he was very good, and Ottawa still got 3 goals past him. So it's not like it's impossible to score, but that's going to be something to key in on heading into that game. Montreal plays tonight, and the Red Wings play tomorrow. So neither team will be coming off a back-to-back, while the Sens head into the weekend now with a really big confidence boost in their back pocket, Pillsy. We went and looked up the numbers because the Sens, it felt like we're weekend warriors. We do Locked On Senators 5 days a week and post-game. So when we do the post-game show on the weekend, that's a 7-show week. So we're going into that weekend saying, okay, let's at least make them vibecast. Let's have a good game. And the Senators have come through in a big way. In their last 7 sets of Saturday, Sunday back-to-backs dating back to last January, the Senators are 13-0-1 during that stretch. Let me repeat. They are 13-0-1 in their last 14 back-to-backs on Saturday, Sunday, and the only blemish on that resume was a 1-0 overtime loss on the second half of back-to-back on the road with travel against Pittsburgh, where Sidney Crosby scored on a power play in overtime for the only goal of the game.
Yeah, so this team thrives on the weekends in back-to-backs. Now, it's going to be fascinating, Ross, to see how they deploy their goalies. It's been a whirlwind, mismanagement. I called it goalie malpractice when they started Levy again. And look, I know he got the win, but they have to figure out how to properly set up the crease because it's been the worst part of their entire season. So if you're just going crazy and letting guys know a couple hours before the game, hey, you're starting another back-to-back with travel, or you're bringing up James Reimer and then not playing him on a back-to-back when the thing this guy needs most is reps and game experience. If you weren't going to play him on this back-to-back, Ross, I would have loved to have him in Belleville for another game up against the Laval Rocket to get even more used to things, especially because he didn't exactly look great or ready in his first game with the Belleville Center. So just a wild circus of things going on here. And then Hunter Shepard sent back down. Like, it's crazy. So I want them to have a plan going into this weekend of how they're going to set the goalies up, because let's continue that success of weekend back-to-back games.
The only thing I can reason with for James Reimer coming up is to get NHL shooters in practice. That's the only thing.
I think game experience is more important. And Ross, it's not like Belleville's a bunch of slumps down there. You got the leading goal scorer and point getter in the AHL down there that can take shots on you.
Hey,
so
leading goal scorer on the blue line too. Lassie Thompson with an OT winner last night. His 10th goal of the season.
There you go. And I understand what you're saying, but I think for a goalie that's as cold and has played as little as James Reimer does, game reps are more important than the quality of shooters in practice.
We'll find out tomorrow how the goaltending will go on the weekend. Full day off for the Ottawa Senators. CBA mandate. You play back-to-back games and you have the next day off.
And Ross, the recovering from partying in New York City, like I mentioned.
They flew right back after the game.
Oh, come on.
I know. Hey,
Lame.
I know.
You know I love New York City, Ross.
You're the biggest New York City guy.
I went there twice last year. So
yeah.
It's not, and my opinion turned around. I'd never been there and I was like, it's too busy, too much. But I liked going there.
There's little pockets. You got to find your little pockets.
I'm a big Central Park guy.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great spot. And we'll see how the Ottawa Senators can go into another back-to-back this weekend. Just to close the point there on the record on back-to-back Saturday, Sundays, under Travis Green, they're 16-4-2 overall during 11 sets of those Saturday, Sunday back-to-back. So if that doesn't give you confidence heading into the weekend against two Atlantic Division teams, I got one more reason why you can be optimistic, and that is because the Senators have a superstar forward who is just now 24 years old. Up next, we'll discuss Tim Stützle's soaring ability to produce offense and become a well-rounded player at that. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is for your business. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone for this show, which we don't need to do. We love everyone that's working on this show, but I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your job listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on the Locked On Senators podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub, our pub in the heart of the Glebe, where you can head for a great time and a long time. It's a place to share with friends and neighbors. The Sens Shuttle to and from the CTC for just $18 round trip. There's 5 dates available right now. All January dates are up on the website right now, and there's some unreal matchups. Montreal this Saturday. You've got Carolina, Vegas, Colorado, and the New Jersey Devils all coming to town this month. So get to the game by taking the GCP shuttle. It leaves an hour and 15 minutes before the game from 779 Bank Street, which is right in the heart of the Glebe, steps from Lansdowne, and then about 15-20 minutes after the final buzzer, the bus will bring you right back to the pub, and you skip the traffic out of the parking lot. It really is the best and most efficient way to get to and from the rink. And also, I mean, Saturday, live music every Saturday night, no cover at the GLEBE Central Pub, so you can roll a Senators victory into more good times at the GCP. Get the nachos for the table. Be a hero. The wings are great as well at the GLEBE Central Pub. So head there today at 779 Bank Street. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. Catch every game, every night at the GLEBE Central Pub because the vibes are free at the GCP. All right, Pilsy, I want to remind everybody that you can join the Everydayer Club with Locked On Senators and get LOSP with no interruptions. I'm talking ad-free content for $5 a month or $50 a year. And you also get members-only access to our Discord channel as well as the entire Locked On Podcast Network Discord channel, so you can get into your team every day that much more. You can join through the link below. That is lockedonsenators.supercast.com to learn more. Pilsy, the Ottawa Senators, back-to-back wins. That's great. But what I also love to see is the scoring from the blue line, Pilsy. The Ottawa Senators have been getting offense from the back end. We know in the game against Vancouver, both goals were scored by defensemen Artem Zub and Jordan Spence. Well, last night, the other D-men wanted to get in on the action. Nick Jensen, Jake Sanderson, and Thomas Chabot, all goal scorers in last night's game, which means 5 of the Sens' 6 defensemen have scored a goal in the last 48 hours.
Yeah, you love to see some offense from the back end, and Tyler Clevin still sitting on 0 goals this year. We got to get him on the goal sheet here.
Levy lock for Saturday night. That would be a bit of a stretch, but it'd be cool.
Heat check.
So we talk about the defense getting goals, and a big reason for that is Ottawa's doing a much better job of digging pucks deep down low, getting them up to the point, and then making it hard for the goalie to see the puck. I mean, on Jake Sanderson's, he just clean beat him with that wrister right over the glove. Thomas Chabot's goal, nobody knew it went in the back of the net, but Nick Jensen's in particular. Yeah. That's traffic in front of the net on Nick Jensen's goal. It goes off a skate. Initially, we thought maybe Dylan Cousins got a stick on it in front, but instead it goes off the defender and in. And those are the types of bounces you get when you're playing good hockey.
Yeah, and the bounces weren't going the Sens' way before that, Ross, and now you got the bounces going in for you. And it's puck luck is often earned as well, right? Like you have to be in the right spot, the right opportunity. What's that old saying? Luck is when preparation and opportunity meet. So
Yep.
You hope that the Ottawa Senators are preparing properly and they're getting their opportunities and becoming more lucky.
We talked about Brady Tkachuk a lot on the postcast, so we'll point you in that direction for a deeper dive into how Brady Tkachuk impacted this game. Heck, he was the Locked On Podcast Network Locked On Player of the Night in all sports. A goal
What an
and
honor.
3 assists. I mean, he was all over the place. Loved his post-game interview as well. Hey, he beat his brother, Matthew Tkachuk, in the race to 200 goals, I think by 11 games, but they both got dummied by Big Walt, who I think had 50 in one of his first seasons in the NHL. So that is a nice little milestone, right, for Brady Tkachuk?
Illustrious milestone, Ross. Against all odds, he gets 200 career NHL goals.
Kind of cool, though. He got his 100th NHL goal at Madison Square Garden, and now he's got his 200th goal at Madison Square Garden.
So lock in goal number 300 at MSG?
As a visitor, for sure. I would like to see it. Or at home. He can get it at home. He's only the 4th Ottawa Senator to reach 200 goals in a Senator's uniform. So I think that is spectacular as well. The second fastest Senator to reach the 200 goal plateau. Only Alexei Yashin did it faster. So pretty good company. The other Senators to reach 200 goals are Jason Spezza and, of course, Daniel Alfredsson. Speaking of goals, Tim Stützle, as he turns 24 today, scored his 20th goal of the season last night, giving him 135 career National Hockey League goals, which is 10th all-time in Senators history. Just one more than Drake Batherson, but he's also 7 behind Sean McEachran for 9th on the all-time list. Our good friend John Perlberg with TSN had a stat that he, Tim Stützle, is tied for the most goals by an Ottawa Senator before turning 24 years old. He's tied with a Hall of Famer, Marian Hossa. Pretty good company.
Yeah, that's huge. And that's nice to get that empty netter to just squeak in there.
Yeah, and look, we did say number 18, electric player with the Ottawa Senators. There is a bit of similarity between Hossa and Stützle. Of course, Timmy, natural centerman. I know those comparisons started when he began his career as a winger, but look, Tim Stützle is a stud. There's no question about that. And I think that what the stats don't often show, or at least the ones that we grabbed for today's show, is that he is a well-rounded player. Defensively, he's become a very, very reliable piece. He's been awesome on the penalty kill. He's a guy that you can put out there in the last 2 minutes of a game, whether you're leading or trailing, and he's been money for them, leading the team in points so far this season, 5 clear of Drake Batherson. Timmy's up to 47 points on the season. So what's next for Tim Stützle? Before we look forward, let's look back. And his points per game as a 19-year-old, and again, he made his debut on his 19th birthday, just over half a point per game. Not bad, especially considering where the Senators were and the fact that his first line mates were Derek Stepan and Evgeny Dadonov. Not bad. Then when he turns 20, that points per game almost doubles. It goes up to 0.93, 35 goals, 88 games during the age of 20. Then at 21, he goes up to 1.14 points per game. That, of course, helped him achieve his career high in goals of 39, was split between that 20 and 21-year-old season. Then a bit of a step back offensively at the age of 22, down to 0.94 points per game. But he's right back close as can be to a point per game player as the in 85 games as a 23-year-old Tim Stützle with 30 goals and 53 assists for a 0.98 points per game. I'm going to go out on a limb. His 24-year-old age, he's going to be over a point per game player.
Yeah, I think so. That's definitely achievable, especially with the way this team is in their competitive window here. And Ross, I know these are year by year, but I wanted to touch on something season by season that deserves to be talked about. How about Tim Stützle's progression in the faceoff dot? Oh my God. His first season, Ross, 29.6%. Now, mind you, he only took 27 faceoffs. Next season, 38.1, taking much more. I'm not going to do math, but in the hundreds. Then 41.6, then 46.7, then 47.8, and this year, 54.9% in the dot. So him progressing into a terrible face-off guy, a bad face-off guy, a below average face-off guy, an average face-off guy, and now a very good face-off guy has been great to see.
It really has, and he's a plus player now at +3. He was even last year, had been deep in the negatives for the first 3 of the first 4 seasons he had in his NHL career, and it's just he does it in all aspects of the game. I know that there's that one year where he had 1 power play goal, but he's already got 6 power play goals this season. He's 1 away from his career high on game-winning goals. He's already got 3 of those this season. And one thing we got to touch on, because we were all over him in the summer for it, but he's got 115 shots on goal. So he's on pace to crush what he did last year. He only had 162 shots on goal last year. So we need him to be close to where he was when he scored 39 goals. He had 228 shots that season. Be a far cry to get there right now. Actually, he's on pace to be just under that. But that could be the goal, is for him to set a career high in shots on goal this season. But Tim Stützle does everything that the Ottawa Senators need for them to be a successful team and have that 1C lockdown centerman that can do it all. So happy birthday to Tim Stützle. Absolute beauty, too. If you haven't gotten to meet him off the ice, he's so intense on the ice and has that fiery competitor in him. But he's just a good dude off the ice. So I think that he kind of embodies the leadership growth of this young Senators core.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, we got to spend a bunch of time with him at the gala last year, which was so much fun. And Ross, you talk about the shots that Tim Stützle's taking, but they're not just low-calorie shots either. He now has his highest shooting percentage this season of his career at 17.4%. So, and then he's hitting, he's blocking, he's playing shorthanded. Like, Tim Stützle is everything and more of what we wanted and hoped he could become. I mean, I hate to use this term, Ross, but he is just scratching the surface, just like Josh Brown was back in the day.
Yeah, I think this one's probably a bit more sustainable there. And I teased it by saying going into the weekend, well, Tim Stützle in 40 career games combined between the Red Wings and the Montreal Canadiens, 40 games, he's got 40 points on the dot.
All right, so let's keep that rolling.
Per game player. On the other side, let's look at the standings, both the wild card and Atlantic Division, as we head into this weekend. We'll get into full weekend game day previews, more dialed into Detroit and Montreal, not in that order. But let's look at what the Senators have done to put themselves in a better spot with 4 points in the last 48 hours. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for you inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like the most. Often, parlay profit boost or no sweat token. Open your profit boost pack first thing and see what boosts you want. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts. It gives you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. So you make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs are rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
You already make Locked On Senators your first listen each and every day, so make it official and join us in the Everydayer Club. $5 a month $50 USD per year. You get ad-free content as well as access to our members-only Discord, which we love. It's been buzzing. UK Sens fans in there. We've got Dermot Riley. We've got Berkey in there. We've got our guy Anthony. There's a great group of people who are making us your team every day. We appreciate all the great support there. All right, Pillsy. So the Ottawa Senators now, after 2 consecutive wins, find themselves with a record of 22-19-5. That's good for 49 points, which, if you really want to be a masochist, is that how you say it? Masochist?
Masochist, word of the day. I believe that means you enjoy your own pain.
Yes, I believe so. A masochist is someone who derives pleasure, satisfaction, or relief from experiencing pain, humiliation, and suffering. Okay. Yes, that plays here because the Senators would be in the second wildcard spot in the Western Conference.
We've said, Gary Bettman, take a look at the map, reevaluate where the West and East divide is, because Ottawa has always been known as a Western city.
But because they're in the Eastern Conference, they sit 8th in the wild card race, 3rd last in the Eastern Conference with a points percentage of .533. Now they're 5 points back of the 2 teams, both Atlantic Division teams that are tied for that top wildcard spot in the Buffalo Sabres and the Boston Bruins. Now, one good thing at least about the Boston Bruins, for Ottawa that is the Sens do have a game in hand on the Bruins, although Boston has won 4 straight games. So you got to give them their flowers there. They're playing much better hockey than they were earlier this season. I mean, Ottawa has had success. I believe Ottawa finished their season series 3-0-1 against the Boston Bruins, if I'm not mistaken. There. Elsewhere in this gong show that is the wild card picture, you've got it's basically, if you win a few games in a row, you're looking good. You lose a few games in a row, all of a sudden you're a mess. Like Philadelphia was in the top 3 in the Metro. They lose 3 in a row, all in regulation. All of a sudden they're on the outside looking in of the playoff picture. So I think if you're Ottawa, it's nice that you're able to create a 3-point gap now between yourselves and the New York Rangers, who've lost 4 games in a row in regulation. And you're finding yourself at least being able to say, we have an inch of breathing room. Now, Columbus, they've won 2 straight. They've got the new coach bump. We know Rick Bowness is a great NHL coach. Florida's won 2 in a row. New Jersey's won 2 in a row. So as important as it was to win those games, to close the gap from, I believe they were 7 points out at their furthest to now being 5 points out, you're also just trying to keep pace with all these other teams that are finding ways to win any given night.
Yeah, the Eastern Conference is just crazy how good it is. And you look at these teams, Ross, like the Florida Panthers, they're only going to get better. Matthew Tkachuk is inching closer and closer to returning, so that's going to be a big boost for them. Now, the Buffalo Sabres, unfortunately, Josh Norris was hurt last game, and without Josh Norris, that's a team that struggled, and they already have a handful of injuries. And you got to assume, this isn't just me picking on the Sabres, any team that goes on a 10-game win streak, and I believe they're like 14-2 in the last 16, you got to assume they're going to come back down to earth here, especially losing one of their top centermen. So you hope that can take them down a bit. And then you look at the Metro teams like the Devils, Flyers, and Penguins. Well, at the end of this month and leading into the Olympic break, the Sens play the Devils on January 31st, the Penguins February 2nd, and then the Flyers February 5th. So you got games and opportunities to knock them down as well. So I said it, I'm emphatically going by it, Ross. From now to the Olympic break is the most important stretch of the rest of the regular season.
Game 7 mentality, as Brady Tkachuk said. We asked him this summer, did the Sens lead the league in Game 7s played last spring in basically after 4 Nations? Every game felt like a Game 7, he said. So Ottawa, at least like this group, there's not that much change from that team that went on a run from March 1st on to the end of the regular season and this team now. So these guys are able and have the experience of winning a number of games in a row when the pressure mounts, and they're going to have to do that here to continue climbing the standings. Let's look at how the Atlantic Division sets up as we head into the weekend. Again, there's games tonight. Montreal plays Buffalo tonight, Billsy, and that is going to pull at my heartstrings because I think we might need the Habs to win in regulation.
Yeah, I mean, the teams that are top in the divisions, we kind of have to just let them keep cooking, and we need to focus on the teams in the wild card race. So I'm not going to say it out loud, Ross, but yes.
At least we'll get to wash our hands with it 24 hours later, right? Like the Habs play tonight, or I guess 48 hours later, because if Ottawa takes care of the Habs on Saturday night, at least that would go in the right direction. The biggest reason, Montreal's 5 points up on Buffalo, but Ottawa's got a game in hand on the Habs, as well as 2 head-to-head meetings that are both going to be at home. But just look at the last 10 games in the Atlantic Division. The Lightning have won 11 in a row. The Detroit Red Wings are 6-3-1. The Habs are 6-2-2. The Buffalo Sabres are 8-2. The Bruins have won 4 straight. They're 6-3-1. And the Leafs are 7-1-2 in their last 10 games. You can even look at Florida back-to-back wins, and they're 5-4-1. So Ottawa's the only team in the last 10 games that are below 500. But those 2 wins can go a long way if you can parlay them into this weekend, where we've already acknowledged the Senators have had a ton of success on Saturdays and Sundays. So, I mean, I just hope is not lost, but they've got to get themselves out of the basement here. And it feels like every night the Atlantic Division is just packing points.
It's crazy, yeah. And how about the Montreal Canadiens? 17 regulation wins. That's tied with the Ottawa Senators. I mean, you got to assume that they're going to start losing those close games and those overtime and shootout games, because that's just crazy.
Well, that means that, they've got 9 wins beyond regulation, but then they also have 7 overtime losses. So they've played 16 overtime games so far this season.
Crazy.
Wow. Ottawa's played 10. So you look at that, 6 extra overtime games, and the Senators find themselves 10 points back. I mean, you get those extra games to pass regulation, and all of a sudden you're in a much different spot, especially if you can find a way to win those games. But look, 49 points for Ottawa, 51 for the Panthers, 53 for the Leafs, 54 for Boston and Buffalo, and then the rise goes up. Now, it is worth mentioning, though, Detroit was 60 points. They played the most games of anybody in the Atlantic Division. Ottawa's got 2 games in hand on them. So, look, they play the Sharks tomorrow night. We're going to have our Macklin Celebrini pom-poms on for that game. And then, I mean, it only matters if Ottawa takes care of their own business this weekend, which we're going to have to hope and pray that they do, because this is the time, the end of January. Back-to-backs are all over the place. They just played one. They got one this weekend. They got one next weekend. And then they got one right before the Olympic break, the Monday, Tuesday to start February. So you've got a lot of games in a short period, and I'm sure a lot of teams are like this too, but you got to think Ottawa is going to be among the leaders in games played between now and the Olympics. So this is your chance to push yourselves up the standings, even to just feel better about yourselves as you head into that break, where if you pull up the NHL standings page or the TV and they show it, you're not all the way at the bottom. You're at least in the hunt, as you'd see on the graphic.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's fair to say they're still in the hunt, but you don't want to be on the bottom of a hunt. You don't want to be the lowest predator on the food chain when a hunt is going on.
No, you definitely don't. Pilsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me is the Belleville Senators got a win last night as well, 3-2 overtime win over the Laval Rocket. And unfortunately, Ross, they are still out of a playoff spot, 3 spots out of a playoff spot, and they've played 5 more games than the Cleveland Monsters, the team they have to pass to get back into a spot in the North Division. So it's going to be tough sledding for the Sens, but you got to stack up those wins when you can get them. And guys like Tyler Boucher, Lassie Thompson, Stephen Halliday, Arthur Kaliev, they're all contributing down there. So we hope they continue that. And a couple days ago, interim head coach Andrew Campbell said Yakimchuk was very close to returning. So we're going to keep an eye out for the top Ottawa Senators prospect to make his return back to the Belleville Senators.
Yeah, he was skating yesterday, and Belleville does play against Rochester tomorrow. I just want to give some stick taps to Matt Sogard. 2 goals against, 25 saves against Laval. That's big for him to get a boost here, as he obviously didn't have much success or real opportunity getting pumped in 17 minutes against the Colorado Avalanche. Laval and Colorado, not quite the same caliber if you're scoring at home.
No. Not quite.
All right. So good to see them get a win. And we're hoping that continues into this Friday against a Rochester team that's had their number this season and finds themselves second in the division. Although Laval's first in the division. So Belleville was able to get one extra point. Obviously went to overtime, but was able to get themselves a much needed victory. Belleville's 4-4-2 in their last 10 games. All right. Thank you for liking, watching, listening, engaging with the show. You can find us on Twitter at Sens Central, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. 5-star reviews go a long way to helping the show grow. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. We'll see you tomorrow for a big weekend preview right here on another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.